Elara Voss gripped the steering wheel tightly as her old sedan wound its way up the narrow mountain roads toward Echo Ridge. The Rockies loomed like silent guardians, their peaks shrouded in a perpetual haze that made the world feel smaller, more confined. It was late autumn and the aspens had shed their golden leaves, leaving skeletal branches clawing at the overcast sky. At 27, Elara was starting over, fleeing the concrete jungle of Denver where a messy breakup and a dead-end job had left her drained. The position as a community outreach coordinator at the Echo Ridge Support Center promised quiet purpose, helping locals navigate life's rough patches in this remote village of barely 2,000 souls. The GPS signal flickered, a common complaint in these parts where cell service was as unreliable as the weather. Elara glanced at the map on her phone, confirming she was close. The air grew cooler, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. As she crested the final hill, Echo Ridge came into view. A cluster of weathered wooden buildings nestled in a valley, flanked by dense forests and jagged cliffs. Smoke curled from chimneys, and the distant rumble of a river added to the serene yet isolating atmosphere. She pulled into the gravel lot of her new rental, a cozy cabin on the outskirts with a wraparound porch and views of the endless trees. It was modest, but the solitude appealed to her after years of noisy neighbors. Unloading her boxes, Elara felt a prickle on the back of her neck. Across the road, partially hidden by a thicket of evergreens, stood a man. He was middle-aged with a scruffy beard and eyes shadowed under a wool cap. He didn't move, just watched her with an intensity that made her pause. Shaking it off as small-town curiosity, she carried her things inside. The cabin's interior was warm, with a stone fireplace and creaky hardwood floors. She spent the afternoon unpacking, hanging photos of her family, her supportive but distant parents back in the city, and setting up her workspace. That evening, craving normalcy, Elara drove into the village center. Main Street was a quaint strip, a general store, a diner called the Summit Grill, and the support center in an old lodge building. She parked and headed to the diner for a quick meal. The bell jingled as she entered, drawing nods from the locals huddled over coffee. The place smelled of fried onions and fresh pie, with booths upholstered in faded red vinyl. "What'll it be, hun?" asked the waitress, a plump woman with a name tag reading Betty. "Just a burger and fries, please," Elara replied, smiling. As she waited, a man slid into the booth across from her uninvited. He was handsome in a rugged way, late 20s with tousled dark hair, a flannel shirt, and grease stains on his hands suggesting he worked with machines. "You're new here," he said, his voice smooth with a hint of amusement. "I'm Ronan, mechanic down at the garage." Elara blinked, caught off guard but not displeased. "Elara? Yeah, just moved in for the job at the support center." His eyes lit up. "Ah, helping the lost souls. Noble work. Echo Ridge could use more like you. It's quiet, but things can get interesting." They chatted lightly about the best hiking trails, the harsh winters, and how the mountains seemed to whisper secrets. Ronan was charming, making her laugh with stories of tourist mishaps. For the first time in months, Elara felt a spark of connection. As she paid and left, he called after her, "If your car acts up, come see me. First fix on the house." Back on the road to her cabin, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows. Elara decided to stretch her legs with a short hike on a nearby trail Mira, her elderly neighbor she'd glimpsed earlier, had mentioned in a welcome note left on the porch. The path wound through the forest, the crunch of leaves underfoot echoing in the stillness. Birds called faintly, and the air grew crisp. Halfway in, she spotted the man from earlier, the bearded observer, leaning against a tree, smoking a cigarette. He extinguished it as she approached, his gaze locking onto hers. "Evening," he grunted. "Hello," Elara said cautiously, slowing her pace. "You shouldn't wander alone out here," he warned, his tone flat but insistent. "Woods have eyes. Folks disappear sometimes." Her pulse quickened. "I'm just getting some air. Thanks for the concern." He stepped closer, the scent of tobacco clinging to him. "Not concern, advice, new faces stir things up, best keep to yourself." Before she could respond, he melted back into the trees, leaving her unsettled. Was it a threat or genuine worry? The village's isolation suddenly felt oppressive, the trees closing in like silent witnesses. Shaken, Elara hurried back to her cabin as twilight deepened. She locked the door, double-checking the windows, and poured herself tea to calm her nerves. The encounter replayed in her mind, his piercing eyes, the cryptic words. She dismissed it as paranoia from the move, but as she settled in with a book, a soft rustle outside caught her ear. Peering through the curtain, she saw nothing but darkness. Then, on the porch step, something white fluttered. A note pinned under a rock. Heart racing, she cracked the door and snatched it. The scrawled words read, "Leave before they notice you. It's not safe." Footsteps crunched away into the night, fading into the wind. Who were they, and what had she walked into? The next morning, sunlight filtered through the cabin's curtains, chasing away the shadows of the previous night. Elara stared at the note on her kitchen table, its edges curling slightly in the dry mountain air. She had barely slept, her mind racing with possibilities. Was it a prank from bored locals, or something more sinister? She folded it away and headed to her first day at the Echo Ridge Support Center, determined to focus on her new role. The center was a converted log lodge, its exterior rough-hewn and inviting, with flower boxes wilting under the autumn chill. Inside, it smelled of coffee and old books, with counseling rooms branching off a central lobby. Her boss, a stern woman named Lydia with wire-rimmed glasses and a no-nonsense bun, greeted her warmly enough. "We're glad to have you, Elara. Our clients need fresh perspectives. Start with Silas today. He's one of our regulars." Silas waited in a small room adorned with motivational posters faded from years of exposure. He was in his late 40s, lean with salt and pepper hair and eyes that seemed to hold unspoken stories. His hands fidgeted with a frayed cuff as Elara introduced herself. "I'm here to listen," she said gently. "What's on your mind?" He leaned forward, his voice a low rasp. "The village. It's got layers. People come and go, but some don't leave the way they planned." His words echoed the note's warning, sending a chill down her spine. Silas spoke in fragments, about lost jobs, family estrangements, and vague references to old traditions that bound the community. When pressed, he clammed up, muttering about watching eyes. After the session, Elara reviewed client files in the office. Flipping through Silas's folder, she noticed inconsistencies, dates that didn't align, addresses that led to non-existent streets. One entry mentioned a relocation program with redacted details. Curious, she cross-checked others. Several newcomers like herself had files marked transferred, but no forwarding info. The unease from the note resurfaced. Was the center involved in something shady? Her car sputtered on the way home, the engine coughing like an old smoker. Remembering Ronan's offer, she pulled into his garage on the edge of town. The place was cluttered with tools and half-repaired vehicles, the air thick with oil and metal. Ronan emerged from under a hood, wiping his hands on a rag. "Trouble already? Let me take a look." As he tinkered, they talked. He asked about her life in Denver, why she left, if she had close ties. His questions felt probing, but his smile disarmed her. "Small towns like this," he said, tightening a bolt, "they hold on to their secrets, but you'll fit in fine." He fixed the issue quickly, a loose wire, and refused payment. "See you around, Elara." That evening, a storm rolled in, thunder rumbling like distant artillery. Rain pelted the cabin's roof, amplifying her isolation. She tried calling her parents, but the signal dropped repeatedly. Then her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She answered, hearing only heavy breathing before the line went dead. It happened twice more that night. Paranoia set in. She barricaded the door with a chair. Unable to sleep, Elara returned to the center after hours, using her key to slip in quietly. The building was eerie in the dark, shadows stretching across the halls. She headed to the file room, flashlight in hand, and dug deeper. In a locked drawer she pried open, she found a hidden compartment. Inside were photos, grainy images of people, some smiling in village settings, others looking haunted. One showed a woman who resembled her, dated years ago, with a note. Integrated successfully. Her heart pounded. What did integrated mean? As she pocketed a photo, a noise echoed from the basement, scraping like furniture moving. The center had a storage area down there, rarely used. Swallowing fear, she descended the creaky stairs, the air growing musty and cold. The basement was a maze of boxes and old furniture. In the far corner, a door stood ajar, light flickering from within. Pushing it open, Elara gasped. The room was lined with more photos pinned to walls. Dozens of faces, many crossed out with red X's. Notes scribbled beneath. Unsuitable, relocated, sacrificed. Her blood ran cold. This wasn't a support center, it was a trap. Before she could process it, footsteps thudded above. Someone was in the building. Had they followed her? Elara froze in the hidden room, her breath shallow as the footsteps overhead grew louder. She slipped the photo into her pocket and eased the door shut, plunging the space into darkness. The intruder moved methodically through the center, opening doors and rifling through drawers. Her mind raced. Who could it be? Lydia? Ronan? Or the bearded man from the woods? She waited until the sounds faded, then crept upstairs. The lobby was empty, but a window had been forced open, rain pooling on the sill. Outside, taillights vanished into the storm. Shaken, she locked up and drove home, the wipers slashing against the downpour. The mountain roads twisted like serpents, visibility near zero. Halfway back, headlights appeared in her rearview mirror, closing fast. The vehicle, a dark SUV, hugged her bumper, high beams blinding her. She accelerated, but it matched her speed, swerving aggressively. Panic surged. This wasn't random. She took a sharp turn onto a side road, tires skidding on wet gravel. The SUV followed, horn blaring. The chase led through narrow passes, cliffs dropping away on one side. Elara's hands shook on the wheel. She remembered Mira's cabin nearby. The elderly woman had seemed kind, leaving baked goods with her welcome note. Veering left, she sped toward it, the SUV inches behind. A bump sent her jolting. They were trying to run her off the road. Mira's porch light glowed like a beacon. Elara slammed on the brakes, skidding to a stop and bolted to the door, pounding frantically. The SUV slowed but didn't stop, cruising past slowly before accelerating away. Mira, wrapped in a shawl, opened the door. "Child, what's happened?" Inside by the fire, Elara spilled everything. The note, the photos, the chase. Mira's face paled. "I've lived here 60 years. Echo Ridge. It's cursed. Outsiders come, drawn by the peace, but the old families, they have rituals. Keep the mountains balanced. People vanish, blamed on accidents." Mira shared tales. Hikers lost in avalanches, drivers in wrecks. A secretive group, she whispered, led by influential locals preying on newcomers to appease ancient spirits believed to guard the peaks. They watch, test, then take. Elara's skepticism warred with fear. "I need proof. The police?" "Deputy Hale? He's one of them. Stay low, gather evidence." The next day, Elara returned to work, feigning normalcy. Silas was her first client. "You look troubled," he said. She confided subtly, mentioning the files. His eyes widened. "Leave it be. They're everywhere," after her boss pulled her aside. "Everything okay? You seem distracted." "Just settling in," Elara lied, but Lydia's gaze lingered too long. Driving home, the SUV reappeared. Heart hammering, she floored it through back roads. Suddenly, Ronan's truck pulled out from a side path, cutting off the pursuer. The SUV veered away. Ronan flagged her down. "Saw you in trouble, you all right?" Grateful but suspicious. How had he been there? She thanked him. "Coincidence?" He grinned. "Lucky one. Let me escort you home." At her cabin, he lingered. "Be careful out there." As he left, Elara barricaded inside. Then, through the window, a figure emerged from the tree line, silhouetted against the moon. It stood watching, unmoving. And then the power flickered out. leaving her in total darkness. Darkness enveloped the cabin like a shroud, the sudden blackout amplifying every creak and whisper of wind. Elara fumbled for her flashlight, its beam cutting through the gloom. The figure outside had vanished, but her skin crawled. She checked the breaker box, nothing tripped. A deliberate cut? Grabbing a kitchen knife, she peered out, seeing only swaying trees. Power returned hours later, but sleep evaded her. Morning brought resolve. Confront Deputy Hale. The sheriff's office was a squat building on Main Street, smelling of stale coffee and dust. Hale, a burly man with a mustache and piercing eyes, listened to her story. The note, the chase, the photos, with feigned interest. Sounds like pranks. Kids around here get bored, but the files at the center, disappearances? He leaned back. Accidents happen in mountains, I'll look into it. His dismissal rang hollow, echoing Mira's warning. Frustrated, Elara visited Mira again. The old woman brewed tea, her hands trembling. The photos? That's their ledger. They integrate those who fit their needs. Labor, rituals, others. Gone. Mira revealed more. The group met in abandoned mines performing ceremonies tied to native legends twisted over generations. I lost a daughter to them. Ran, but they found her. Elara's phone buzzed. Ronan inviting her to dinner. Wary but needing allies, she accepted. At a secluded spot overlooking the valley, candlelight flickered. Ronan was attentive, sharing his own backstory. Orphaned young, raised by locals. But as wine flowed, he slipped. Denver must have been tough after that breakup. Guy sounded like a jerk. She froze. How do you know about that? He paused, then laughed. You mentioned it. No, she hadn't. Alarm bells rang. Feigning illness, she excused herself and fled into the woods, heart pounding. Branches whipped her face as she ran, the path twisting. Suddenly, hands grabbed her from behind, a masked figure pinning her down. Stop struggling, a muffled voice growled. She kicked free, scrambling away, but twisted her ankle. Limping, she hid behind a boulder, hearing footsteps circle. The attacker searched, flashlight sweeping, then retreated. Gasping, Elara made it home, bolting the door. Who was it? Ronan? Or someone he signaled? The next day at work, a group session turned tense. Silas attended with others, discussing community bonds. He muttered, "Sacrifices keep the balance. Blood for the peaks." The room fell silent. Lydia ended early, eyeing Elara suspiciously. Digging deeper, Elara explored an old mine shaft Mira mentioned, flashlight piercing the dank tunnels. Echoes bounced off walls, and she found carvings, symbols of mountains and figures in ritual poses. Deeper in, voices murmured, faint but real. She crept closer, peering into a chamber, hooded figures chanting around a fire, photos like the ones she'd seen pinned to a board. Horror-struck as one turned, Deputy Hale. She backed away, but a rock clattered. Head snapped up. Intruder! She ran, the pursuit echoing behind her. Footsteps thundered through the mine shafts as Elara fled, her twisted ankle throbbing with each step. The tunnels branched like veins, disorienting in the dim light. She ducked into a side passage, pressing against the cold wall, holding her breath. The pursuers passed, voices fading. Find her. She knows too much. Emerging cautiously, she navigated out, collapsing near her car. Driving erratically home, she realized, no safe haven. The group, these guardians, used rituals to justify abductions, believing sacrifices warded off disasters like landslides or storms. Newcomers were easy prey, no ties to trace. At the cabin, she packed essentials, planning escape. But a knock sounded. Mira, breathless. They came for me. We must go. Mira explained. She'd been captured years ago, forced into the group, but escaped and hid. Silas. He's one of them, but wavering. Tried warning you subtly. Together, they confronted Silas at his shack. He opened the door warily. You shouldn't be here. Elara thrust the photo at him. Explain this. Defeated, he confessed. The group, led by elders including Hale and Lydia, selected offerings for renewal rites. Silas had participated once, haunted ever since. They think the mountains demand blood. I was to groom you. Twist. Ronan was the leader's son, groomed to recruit. But Silas hinted Ronan might defect, doubts sown by past losses. A hide-and-seek ensued as patrols searched the village. Elara and Mira hid in forests, evading spotlights. Whispers of pursuit rustled leaves. Once a hand grazed her arm in the dark, but she slipped away. At dawn, they reached a remote cave Mira knew. Inside, Mira revealed maps of escape routes. But they'll block roads. Elara's resolve hardened, drawing on her Denver trauma, a stalking ex that taught vigilance. We exposed them. Silas arrived, breathless. I stole evidence, ledgers, recordings. But betrayal loomed. As they planned, headlights pierced the cave. Deputy Hale's voice boomed. Come out, we know you're there. The search party closed in, trapping them. Surrounded in the cave, Elara's group braced as Hale's men advanced. Silas whispered, Back exit, follow me. They scrambled through a narrow crevice, emerging on a ledge overlooking the valley. Gunshots echoed, but they descended a hidden path, hearts racing. At the base, they stole a vehicle from a trailhead speeding toward the highway. Hale's forces pursued, a convoy of trucks. Elara drove, swerving through passes. One rammed them, but she veered off-road, navigating rough terrain. Mira fired flares from the glove box, blinding pursuers. Reaching the ritual site, an ancient stone circle in the peaks, they confronted the group mid-ceremony. Hooded figures chanted, Ronan at the center. Elara burst in. It's over! Chaos erupted. Fights broke out. Silas tackled Hale. Ronan hesitated, then turned on his father, the leader. No more. In the melee, Ronan was wounded, buying time. Go, expose us. Elara, Mira, and Silas fled as authorities, alerted by an anonymous tip Silas sent, arrived. The group scattered, many arrested, but some escaped into the wilds. Elara relocated, the ordeal leaving scars. Therapy helped, but nightmares persisted. The mountain's whispers haunted her, a reminder of vulnerability. Yet peace came slowly, in a new life far away. Years passed, but the echoes never fully faded. Elara, now in a coastal town, built a quiet existence, counseling others, her past a guarded secret. The arrests in Echo Ridge made headlines briefly. The cult dismantled, but whispers of survivors lingered. One evening, walking her dog along the beach, she felt watched. A familiar figure stood afar, the bearded man from her first day. He nodded, vanishing into the dusk. Was it coincidence? Or had they found her? Paranoia returned, but so did strength. She wouldn't run again. The wind carried a faint whisper like mountains calling.